So, what if everything you were ever taught was a lie? I mean, everything. That's really the question at the very heart of Tara Westover's incredible memoir, Educated. Now, this is a story about a journey, yeah, from a remote mountain in Idaho all the way to the halls of Cambridge University. But it's about so much more than that. It's really about the painful, complicated process of creating a self when your entire past is built on stories that just aren't your own. And this quote right here from Westover herself, it's basically the key that unlocks the entire book. Her story is this deep, profound exploration of memory, and this idea that our reality, well, it's often just a collection of stories we've been told by the people around us. To really understand Tara's journey, we have to start where she did, on Bucks Peak, Idaho. And trust me, it was a world that was completely, totally separated from our own. The Westover family lived so far off the grid that Tara didn't even have a birth certificate until she was 9 years old. And even then, her family couldn't agree on the actual date. As far as the government was concerned, they were basically ghosts. And you know what? That was exactly how her father wanted it. You see, their entire world was built on this core ideology, mostly driven by Tara's father. It was rooted in this deep, deep distrust of all state institutions. He believed the government, schools, doctors, they were all part of some vast conspiracy. They were constantly preparing for the end of the world, treating modern medicine like a sin and stockpiling for the apocalypse. For them, events like the Ruby Ridge standoff weren't just something on the news. They were proof that all their paranoia was completely justified. And this quote from her father, wow, it just perfectly captures the intensity of his beliefs. For him, sending a kid to school wasn't just a bad idea, it was literally an act of spiritual betrayal. And that was the foundation of Tara's entire world. So how did this whole ideology actually play out in their daily lives? Well, up on Bucks Peak, life wasn't governed by state laws, but by a much harsher unwritten code. And this timeline honestly just scratches the surface. The family's junkyard was an absolute minefield of danger. Catastrophic injuries were common, and they were only ever treated with herbal remedies. Her mother, Faye, lived in constant fear of being thrown in prison for practicing midwifery without a license. And woven through all of this was the escalating, violent abuse from her older brother, Sean. This is what Tara's mother told her one night on the way to a birth. It just captures the constant, high-stakes pressure they were always living under. Every single day was a gamble against a world they were convinced was their enemy. But then, something starts to change. Tara decides, against all odds, that she wants to go to college. And this is the moment where her world, the world of Bucks Peak, collides head-on with the outside world. And that collision of worlds was immediate, and it was profound. I mean, on her first day in a university classroom, Tara had literally never heard of the Holocaust. She'd been taught that a woman's place was strictly in the home. Every single lecture, every textbook challenged the very foundations of her reality. Then, in a psychology class, one single definition changed absolutely everything. When she saw the clinical description of bipolar disorder, she finally had a framework, a language to understand her father's paranoia, his delusions, and his incredibly volatile behavior. And what's so profound here is that this wasn't about just labeling her father as crazy. No, it was the shocking realization that someone could be totally functional, even charismatic, and still be profoundly unwell. This new understanding, well, it started to change everything for her. And as Westover herself explains, this is what the book is truly about. Education, for her, wasn't just about learning facts to get a job. It was about the much bigger idea of forging a new mind, a new perspective, a whole new self. But this new self she was building was forced to confront the most traumatic parts of her past, the reality of her brother Sean's abuse. Now, to try and understand this incredibly difficult part of her story, some psychologists have offered a specific lens. You see, despite the horrific abuse, Tara kept going back to her brother Sean. And this has led some to ask, could it be a case of Stockholm Syndrome? It's this strange, tragic kind of bonding that can sometimes happen in abusive situations, making it feel nearly impossible for a victim to break away. This psychological lens really helps explain that powerful, confusing pull that Sean still had on her. And this quote, it just shows the kind of psychological gymnastics she had to perform just to survive. By taking the blame on herself, by rewriting her own memory of what happened, she created this illusion of control in a situation where she had absolutely none.
So her education gave her the tools to see her life clearly, but that clarity, it came at an almost unbearable price.
So here's how the final break happened. When Tara and her sister Audrey finally confronted their parents about the abuse, their mother actually believed them at first. But then she just buckled under their father's pressure. He then gave Tara an ultimatum: admit that she was lying and possessed by a demon, or be cast out of the family forever. She refused, choosing her own mind over her family.
Westover's reflection on her journey is just so powerful. She argues that a true education doesn't lead to arrogance or certainty, it leads to humility. It's about developing empathy and learning to embrace perspectives that really challenge your own. And ultimately, that was the sacrifice. The price for her self-creation was the loss of the family that had been her entire universe. She had to choose the reality she discovered for herself over the one she was handed at birth. And that leaves us with the central, haunting question of this incredible memoir. It's a question about loyalty, about memory, and about identity that resonates far beyond the mountains of Idaho. What does it really cost to become yourself?